Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Nishant, and welcome to another episode of the Nishant Garg Show. The mission of the show is to spread awareness on mindfulness practices, psychology, mental health, and spirituality. My job on the show is to invite world-class performers to share the practices to live a fulfilled life. This episode guest is Dr. Donna Marino. Dr. Donna is a psychologist and executive coach. She is an expert in helping high-achieving C-level leaders, successful business owners, and elite athletes move from burnout to sustainable peak performance. Dr. Donna has more than 20 years of experience in human potential and transformational change. After years of working with high achievers, she has uncovered a collection of characteristics that, when left unchecked, lead to burnout, high-functioning anxiety, and high-functioning depression. Dr. Donna has brought her research and insight to the masses as a sought-after speaker and author on leadership, peak performance, and burnout recovery. In this episode, Dr. Donna talks about achieving peak performance, meditation, mindfulness, hypnosis, fixed mindset and growth mindset, coaching and therapy, and a lot more. To learn more, keep listening. Dr. Donna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm thrilled and excited to have you on the show. I would like to start with something very funny. How does your family describe what you do for a living?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that they say that I change people's lives and that I help others become the best version of themselves, to be less stressed out and more present and enjoy life more.
Helping people change lives. Could you explain more on that?
Sure. Well, my background is that I'm a psychologist, and I've been working with people, helping them really in their lives with their problems or issues since 1996. And along the way, I had my own, growing up and parallel process of my own growth. And along the way, I discovered that therapy was not enough for a lot of people, and that while it's a powerful and wonderful tool, I will never put it down, people need other avenues to access their feelings and their issues. And that's when I became a certified yoga teacher as well. And then, that sort of grew and developed, and I became certified in positive psychology and positive psychology coaching, and then hypnosis. And I'm a little bit addicted to certifications and education. I love to learn. But my approach is really about helping people know what they're good at, know what they're strong at, helping them identify their passion and purpose, just helping them have a deeper quality of life. The people I work with now, I work with executives and helping them overcome their burnout, helping them change their belief systems about work and success and what that means. Because there are a lot of very successful people out there that are still suffering inside. Their marriages are neglected, or their relationship with their kids, their own health and wellness. They're working a lot of hours and they're successful monetarily and from the titles they have, but they're not satisfied or fulfilled within. And I help them. I help them become satisfied and fulfilled and really discover what their passion and purpose is, and heal those relationships that have been damaged. I show them that there's a way to have it all, because I really think there is, that you can be wildly successful and deeply fulfilled and happy at home. And there is a way to it. It's just not our usual way of hard work and grinding it out.
As a listener to this podcast, I'm thinking, I'm not sure whether I need to go towards peak performance. How should I be aware of this thing?
Peak performance to me is really about fulfilling that potential. It's about how can you get the most out of yourself, and I'm going to say with the least amount of effort. I know that sounds crazy. That sounds really controversial. We're really a culture of like put your shoulder into it, put your nose to the grindstone, work these crazy hours. And in positive psychology, we discovered that that's not necessary and that that's actually detrimental to our progress and our health, and that a more balanced life and one that works with our natural body rhythms, our natural energy rhythms, is what brings us to peak performance, which can bring us to fulfillment.
We talk about performance in almost every area of life. Then how does peak performance differ from just performance?
Because performance can be anything. Performance is the outcome of what you put out there, whereas peak performance is about that thriving, I would say. So it's not, we have surviving and we have thriving, and it really is about that thriving. So peak performance for someone might be, being the CEO of a company, but for someone else it's running their first marathon, or for someone else, it's feeling really good about their parenting. But peak performance is about really experiencing the breadth and width of your potential.
Are you saying that, for instance, becoming the CEO or running a first marathon is okay, but how do we sustain that for a long period of time?
Right. And that's what I work with people on, because the pattern that we live in the work world right now is that intense pressure to always be performing. The people I work with are telling me about the thousands of emails in their inbox and how they can't take a weekend off because they'll be overwhelmed when they come in on Monday and see all those emails and text messages throughout the weekend, throughout the evening, that people are always on. And all that does is lead to burnout. It leads to, putting in a lot of hours, but with very little outcome. And in order to do it for the long haul, the marathon, not the sprint, right? You have to have a way of being sustainable. And so how you become sustainable is by working more in flow, like from researcher Mihaela Csikszentmihalyi, working in our flow where, we are playing to our strengths and we're being appropriately challenged and we feel almost timeless. If you've ever done an activity and you were just so engrossed in it and then you realize like 3 hours have gone by, but it feels like 30 seconds, that's being in flow. And the more we work with principles like this, like the Pareto principle, that 80% of our outcomes come from 20% of what we do. So we can really eliminate a lot of what we're doing and be more effective and efficient. And there's room then for a balanced life, for that sustainable peak performance.
So peak performance is not just one area of life. We can thrive in that area of life, and we get to define different areas, or I should say we get to find ways to thrive in different areas of life and feel fulfilled.
Yes. Yeah.
You just mentioned that if somebody is getting so many text messages, so many emails, and they are flooded with all these things, so how should we deal with all those things? What can we do?
One of the things we have to do is set healthy boundaries with people and with ourselves. We teach people how to treat us. And if we're responding to emails and text messages in the middle of the night, then we teach people that it's okay to be sending these messages in the middle of the night. When we respond on weekends and evenings and holidays, we say that it's okay. It's one of the reasons why I choose to work with high levels of leadership, is because they're setting the tone for the work culture for everyone else, right? So if they're engaging in these behaviors, then the message to everyone beneath them is that this is how we work here. This is how we do it. And it's not okay to shut off, and it's not okay to set boundaries. If we can help the leaders at the top learn how to set those boundaries, learn how to shift expectations, understand that the research shows that your bottom line will improve, that your workers will be more loyal, and you'll have less employee turnover, less sick days, that there is a different way of working that can be even more successful than you are now. But it has to really start by saying no to some things. You have to say no in order to say yes to what's truly important.
And there are so many materials these days in the market that the power of saying no, we should say no to all these things. Then when should we say yes?
That is a great question. I love it. We need to say yes to what matters to us. We need to say yes to the things that are of high value to us, that match our values, our purpose, that are in alignment with what's important. And we need to say no or delegate to the things that don't bring that type of value, or to the things that, especially when you're a leader, there are certain things that only you can do. Those are the things you need to be doing, and you need to be delegating the rest. You can't do everything.
Are you saying understanding the vital function for a leader or for anybody to achieve peak performance?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. For example, women, right, who are balancing executive positions and home life and children, and they're juggling all these things. We do have to pick and choose what is important to us, and we can choose to be PTA mom, but if that's not fulfilling us and we're doing it out of a sense of obligation or guilt because we feel like we have to be everything to everyone, then that's an activity that's just going to be extremely draining for us. And you would be better off using that time to just have some quality one-on-one time with your kids or something else. So when you're thinking about, should I do this or should I not, you really need to think about what is your motivation for doing it? Are you the right person for the job? And I think when you are looking at peak performance and living a full life, you have to choose what it's okay to let go of, because you can have it all, but you can't do it all. And so you have to be willing to let some things go, slide through the cracks even. Maybe your house isn't as clean as you would like it to be, or maybe you have a cleaning person instead of doing it yourself. Whether it's at home or at work, your time is obviously very valuable. We only get a finite amount, and you have to be very discerning about how you're going to spend it and who's basically the right person for the job. You can't do it all.
I would like to ask you, what are the things in your life that you have let go, that you don't do it anymore, you have delegated to others?
Oh, wow. Well, since we have been quarantined, my 13-year-old daughter has taken up making evening dinner, which is something that I do not enjoy doing and I find extremely time consuming. And it allows me to stay, focused on my work up until dinner time, and then I do the cleanup for her. But that's an example. Also, I've hired out certain aspects of my business that are administrative and that anyone can do, and it allows me to really focus on my clients and being in my high level of service. And here's the interesting thing is, like, when you do this right, there is someone else who loves admin work, right? Who loves sorting and organizing emails and creating documents and spreadsheets. There's someone else that is their sweet spot. And when I delegate that to them, then they get that fulfillment and they're earning their living in a place of joy and purpose. And it allows me to focus more on my clients and the coaching and the relationship that fulfills me. So it really is a win-win when we take things off our plate, as long as we delegate them to the right people.
And focusing on our strength areas that we really enjoy doing it. And
Absolutely.
You have been a licensed clinical psychologist. and a certified coach. So this is a very rare combination as a psychologist and a certified coach. What was your motivation to becoming a coach since you were already a psychologist?
Yes. Well, I truly feel that people with a psychology background or a mental health background also make the best coaches. There's a lot of parallels between coaching and therapy, especially if you are a very active therapist like I was, giving homework and assignments and challenging people's thoughts and thinking. So there is quite a good deal of overlap. However, what I love about coaching is the type of people that seek out coaching are highly motivated, they're highly successful, they're looking for someone who is an expert in their area because they're already an expert in what they do. They're looking for a high level person to help guide them in the areas that they need help with. And they tend to work really hard to do the homework, to follow through. It's just a very rewarding relationship.
Are you saying that people who seek therapy are not motivated?
No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that in the broad gamut of people who seek therapy, there are some that are there unwillingly. But no, I'm certainly not saying that if you seek therapy, you're unmotivated.
So
not at all.
Who should go for therapy and who should go for coaching, or everybody can go for both?
Great question. I think anyone can benefit from either, but sometimes a mistake that people make is seeking out the wrong service, right? So if you are struggling with mental health issues, if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, things like that, you really should see a therapist. You can see a coach as well at the same time that you're in therapy, but the coach should really be focusing on specific goals, whether that's in your career or your life, and the mindset and the behaviors that you need to achieve those. Therapy obviously can dive deeper. Therapy can provide a diagnosis. Therapy is covered by insurance. It's a different modality and there are similarities, but what worries me about coaching and the coaching industry is that there are a lot of people coaching, and I think that their intentions are very good, but if they don't have a background in mental health, it's very easy to miss signs that someone should be in therapy. And so while all coaches will tell you, I'm not a therapist and I don't diagnose and, these are the limits of our relationship, there is overlap between the two, coaching and therapy. And without specialized training, it's very hard to spot the same things, and you may miss that somebody needs a level of help that you're not able to provide.
You are not alone in this journey. We all struggle in life. There is no shame in talking about it. I go through my highs and lows. I get depressed. But these practices really help me in living a resilient and mindful life. You can also do this. You got this. Don't judge yourself. When you work with leaders and with your clients, what kind of areas you specifically work with?
That's great. We work on relationship issues, relationship with spouse and children, how work has impacted that. I work a lot with confidence issues and imposter syndrome, feeling like, well, maybe I got to the top out of luck or just knowing the right people. Maybe I'm not as good as people think I am. Bouncing back from mistakes. I work with high achievers, and high achievers tend to have a harsh inner critic and to be perfectionistic and to really tie their self-esteem to their accomplishments. So if they make a mistake or a project doesn't go well, it can really be an injury to their self-esteem. So building that inner resiliency and shifting mindset as well about work and what it means to be successful. So those habits that we talked about, if you're in the habit of grinding it out and working 80 hours a week, and the reason you do that is because your belief system is that that's the only way to be successful. So helping people shift those beliefs to foster more beneficial habits and the habits that have been proven to let people thrive.
Working 80 hours could be fine once in a while, but if it becomes a lifestyle every week, then it will lead to burnout. It will lead to stress, a lot of problems. And that's where we talk about sustaining peak performance, sustaining the success over a long period of time. You mentioned that those leaders have confidence issues. They have already gone to the top level and they shouldn't have confidence issues, right?
We think that, right? We think, wow, why would someone who's so successful have confidence issues? But they do. They do, not all of them, and they won't admit it out loud, most of them, not outside the coaching relationship, because they have a position of leadership and authority to uphold. But the truth is that anybody can have a confidence issue, no matter how successful you are, because your confidence is really not related to your success. It's really an internal resource that is developed often at a young age. And when you tie your confidence to outward success, outward outcomes, then your confidence is not stable. It's really dependent on your performance and the next thing you do and the next thing you do. And so developing an inner sense of confidence is going to give you that stability and is going to make it sustainable so that you can bounce back from failures, so that you can take necessary risks. Without risk, we don't have innovation and creativity. We can't expand.
Are you talking about fixed mindset?
Yes, I do talk about fixed mindset versus growth mindset with my clients. And I was just writing about that this week, actually. So yeah,
because
that's all.
Those leaders and successful people have already gone to the top. So they have some confidence in their skill set. But if they keep attaching their identity with the success, and then they don't have those resilient framework, they have those inner critique in themselves, and they don't believe in themselves. They might have this fixed mindset that if they fail at something, it means they don't have talent. And that's when our growth mindset comes into play. It's okay if we fail in that situation, but we can always come back.
Exactly.
And we can put in more efforts to get to that level.
And that failure is not always a bad thing, right? Failure is how we learn and grow. And failure is the sign that you were willing to take a risk and try something different. So it's, again, shifting that mindset about what it means to fail and what the purpose of failure is.
But failure breeds obsession.
It can. Yeah.
So when you get a client and they're getting through all this fixed mindset problem, confidence problem, but it's still there at the top, how do you coach them?
Oh, good question. It's really for myself, it's really a very intuitive process, and it can be hard sometimes to describe it to other people. But I coach them through some cognitive strategies of how can they look at that thought? How can they, challenge that thought? Is that thought true? Is it real? Is it helpful in any way? And if not, how can we reframe the thought to something that is more helpful, but that they can still believe? And that part is really key. A lot of people, using affirmations is very popular, and, positive thinking is very popular, and it's all good stuff. But a lot of times people will try to make too big of a jump. So if they're saying an affirmation that they absolutely don't believe, it's not going to work. And so when you're reframing those unhelpful thoughts, you have to change it to the next best thing. And these are called ladder thoughts. So if you think about it like a ladder, you're climbing the rungs of a ladder to get to the top, to the thought that you truly want to believe. But you have to do it in a slow progression. Otherwise, your subconscious will just reject it. So I help people through that process of reframing their thoughts, challenging their thoughts, really looking at the evidence. Is there any evidence that supports it? And then if I find that they're really stuck, I also use hypnosis with my clients to help them release those subconscious thoughts that are sabotaging them.
What do you do in the hypnosis?
Hypnosis is very similar to guided meditation. Really, what it does is put you into a deep state of relaxation where the subconscious can be accessed. And I help them to create new ways of thinking. So thinking of feeling confident and being confident. And we're basically reprogramming the mind to accept those beliefs and to let go of old beliefs.
Are you saying you dehypnotize them?
No, not dehypnotize them.
Could you walk us through this hypnosis process? You mentioned that this is kind of a guided meditation. So what do you tell your clients in that hypnosis process?
Well, I can't give you word for word what I would tell. It's really guided by the individual. So having them become relaxed, walking them through maybe a progressive muscle relaxation or something to get them relaxed, having them visualize a favorite place of theirs and using all of their senses. That's very key in visualization.
You are saying you don't have any template for this. So whatever comes from your intuition in that session.
Largely, yes. There is a structure to it that I use, but yeah, especially the language around confidence, it's from knowing them and knowing their language so that I know what they'll be receptive to as well. Yeah.
Have you ever worked with clients who feel that they have no issues, but still they want to go to the top level or to the next level?
No, not really. Because if they don't think they have any issues and any issues in getting there, then they probably wouldn't hire me.
That makes sense. Absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you also talk about high achiever syndrome? What is that?
Yes. So in my work with high achievers and being a high achiever myself, I've noticed this collection of symptoms, I will call them. It's easier for me to categorize them that way as a psychologist, but a collection of characteristics or symptoms that are really common among high achieving people. And while they have helped them get to this level of success, if they are left unchecked, it can really lead to burnout. And, some of them we've already talked about. We've talked about like having a harsh inner critic or being a perfectionist or tying your self-esteem and worth to your outcomes, feeling like you always have to be pushing yourself. I have a client that calls it what's next syndrome. You accomplish a goal and rather than savoring or celebrating it, you're like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? Things like that. And there's a collection of them that I have noted. And like I said, it's really, if you think about it, I get this mental image in my head when I talk about it of like a person in a chariot, right? And in the front of the chariot, what's dragging the chariot? And it's like when high achievers syndrome is out of control, it's like your ambition is running the chariot instead of you. And so it's just the mental image that comes into my head for it. And it's really about like, you have to be in control of your ambition. You can't let your ambition run the show because it will run you into the ground. and just really helping people examine those behaviors and those mindsets and helping them restructure them so that they can really be successful, but they're still in the driver's seat.
We are living in this culture and society when everybody talks about ambition, desires, and we find ourselves attached to those desires and ambition. And that's when ambitions run the show rather than we run the ambition. Do you think that if we lower our ambition sometimes so that we don't feel burnout is good for our life?
I don't think you have to lower your ambition. I think that you have to accept that you are a human being and that there are times for bursts of energy and focus and movement forward, and there are times for rest and stillness. And I think the high achiever is just in this constant state of momentum a good portion of the time, and they don't give themselves the time to rest and recharge. And it's crucial to sustainable peak performance to do that.
What practices do you recommend to reset and recharge?
Awesome. So the first thing I do, love it. The first thing that I do with people, I say the first step is healing your nervous system. Before we get to even changing your mindset or changing your behaviors, your nervous system is really beat up from years of overdoing, overperforming, not being able to sit still. And so that has to come first. And healing the nervous system is about getting proper rest, which means sleep, actually.
How many hours of sleep?
6 to 8 hours of sleep. A lot of people are not getting that, It means having good sleep hygiene, so not having your phone next to your bed, waking you up during the night, not checking your email before you've gotten out of bed. It means getting proper exercise, proper nutrition. I am a big, big proponent of meditation.
This is weird. Psychologist, certified coach, and meditation. Are you talking about mindfulness?
Of course. Yes. Yeah. How else do you slow down if you don't practice mindfulness? And so much of our worry and anxiety and fear, and which is often behind drive, is about not being present and being off in the future and about worried what's going to happen next, right? That we're back to that what's next syndrome, right? And meditation is so key for high performers, and they hate it. They don't want to sit still because it's so hard for them to, shut off their mind. It's so hard for them to sit still and do nothing. Most have to start with like 5 minutes of guided meditation, because if you ask them to just sit still, even for 2 minutes, and do nothing, it can feel excruciating. They're jumping out of their skin because they have tied doing to their success and doing to being a successful person.
I want to ask you that which person comes to your mind who is successful, who is playing game at the top level, who is happy, who is fulfilled, who does meditation? Who comes to your mind?
Funny enough, who comes to my mind, and I don't know this for sure because it's just outward appearance. I don't know him personally, but Obama was who came to my mind. He just seems very lit up and fulfilled and obviously very successful, seems to have a great relationship with his wife and children, and is someone who appears to be living in alignment with his values and purpose, and has a sense of humor as well.
Obama gets the points.
Yeah.
You mentioned that having some sort of reset and recharge practices will help in going towards peak performance. And one of the practices is meditation. And what else we can do?
Walking in nature. So nature is very rejuvenating, and as a species, we need to connect more with nature. So being outside, getting fresh air, connecting with the earth, these kinds of things are also very rejuvenating. Making time for play. What is it, something that you just really enjoy doing for you? So that could be anything. That could be golf or frisbee or, puzzles, whatever that is, but making some time for play and creativity, getting out of that logical brain and getting into more of that creative flow is very important. Your brain needs a rest. And if you want to, high achievers want to come up with the next big thing and the next new idea. If you don't spend some time in that creativity and play, it becomes very hard to do that.
What do you do to play?
What do I do personally?
Yes.
Yes, I love doing puzzles. I do those with my kids and my family. I love being outdoors. So walking outside, hiking, going to beautiful places. And in this time of quarantine, I have been coloring mandalas, and that has been part of my self-expression and playing with color and tapping into my artistic side again.
Going back to the burnout philosophy, you talk about some of the characteristics that lead to burnout. Could you walk us through some of the characteristics?
Sure. So, some of them I've mentioned already, with that inner critic and always having to go after what's next, the inability to kind of sit still and recharge. I wrote an article from my own life, titled "Is Lazy a 4-Letter Word?" And in my house, it was like you always have to be working hard and doing. But that kind of mentality can definitely lead to burnout, right? It doesn't respect the rest and recharge. So it's these things, the beliefs of, if you're not working hard, if you're only working 40 hours, or if you're not staying late, if you're not answering the emails, it's all those things that accumulate together that lead to burnout. Eating lunch at your desk or not eating at all because you're just too busy. All these habits, mental and behavioral, that over time wear us down.
I want to ask you that, in what area of life do you find most challenging?
So personally, for me, what area of life is most challenging?
Yes.
I would say housework, basically. I focus, when you talk about some things have to slip a little bit. My focus is on my business and my family. Those are the top things in my life, right? I love helping others, and family is just everything to me. And so kind of like mundane details of like keeping house and food preparation and food shopping and managing the bills and all that stuff is most challenging to me.
In terms of peak performance, do you recommend some books for our listeners?
Oh, great question. Well, Flow by Mihaela Csikszentmihalyi is an excellent book, and I do recommend that. Also, Sean Achor's book, The Happiness Advantage, that is a brilliant book, especially for looking at how the workplace runs and how it could run better for peak performance by doing less, by not pushing so hard, these kinds of things. The positive psychology literature is really so rich with information on this, about what it truly means to thrive and to feel satisfied in life, and how we can do it differently and better at work and at home.
I can recommend one book for sure. I read this book called The Power of Full Engagement. Very powerful book. I loved reading that book. It talks about emotional energy, mental energy, physical energy, and spiritual energy. So the author says that instead of managing your time, you manage your energy. If you have sufficient energy, then you can achieve peak performance. And this
Yes.
book has so many case studies from golf players, tennis players, how they manage their energy. It's like you stress your muscles, then you recover. When you go to gym to work out, you take some rest after repetitions. You cannot keep
Exactly.
working all the time. If you keep working all the time, then we will burn out. We human beings have a limited capacity of energy tank that we fill in after we get sufficient sleep. Otherwise, we keep burning, we keep running out of gas. It's like we can't
Yes.
drive a car without gas.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I will have to check out that book. It sounds like a lot of what we're saying, and it's so true.
How do you define happiness?
I love this question.
Or what is happiness for you?
Happiness for me is sunshine and spending time with my family and being in nature. Like it is, those are the things that just bring me so much joy. But happiness is that level of fulfillment, like that you are right where you're supposed to be in life.
What if sun doesn't come out in Chicago?
Which is often, right? Which is
Then how
often.
do you find your happiness?
You have to have your internal sunshine, right? Right. So, yeah, it's like I said, it's that like feeling that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, I think. Like that regardless, as you're pointing out, regardless of those outside circumstances, that you are, that you're living the life you're meant to, that you're helping the people you're meant to help, in my case, that you're living in a place of purpose and passion and fulfillment. And that even though every day is not sunshine and roses, that it's unfolding as it's supposed to be, and that you're on the right track and doing the things that you're called to do in the world.
The more we tap into our inner being rather than into external circumstances, the more we will tap into our happiness that lies within us. We have talked about so many benefits about peak performance, what to do, what not to do. I'm thinking, what if we don't take all these measures? What is going to happen, Dr. Donna?
Well, something is better than nothing, right? So I definitely recommend for our listeners. I'm a big fan of the fact that you're the expert of your own life, right? And nobody knows you better than you know yourself. So take the things that have resonated for you. Take the things that sparked an aha moment for you, or oh gosh, that really hits home, and run with that, right? Even if it's just one thing, just everyone has to start somewhere. You have to start where you're at, not somewhere else, and take that one thing and try it out, see how it works, test it out for 30 days. That maybe add something else to your repertoire. If people keep going in that high achiever syndrome, in that like not taking care of themselves and neglecting their home life and their health and all those things for their success, they will end up in burnout. But you can start small. It's a burnout recovery doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, and I really suggest starting with those foundational pieces like sleep. Sleep is a foundation of physical and mental health. Exercise is also, proper nutrition is also. And that's why I start with healing the nervous system, because otherwise it's like building a house upon a shoddy foundation. You need to have those foundational elements first. Otherwise, you can do all the mindset work and habit training work, and you've built it on a crumbly foundation. It's going to come crashing down, and you're going to go back to your old ways of doing things.
Awareness, key awareness of all the things. I believe that a lot of people feel that they are burnout, but their self-worth may be attached to their success. If we don't attach our self-worth with the outcome or with the success, then we can do something about it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't know that they're burnt out. I find that a lot with my high achievers. It's happened over time, and they feel like it's just like the price you pay for hard work or for success. And they may not even recognize that they're feeling burnt out. In fact, a recent client of mine told me that, she hadn't really only admitted it to herself once we started our coaching engagement, and even after she hired me. And as she was filling out all of the paperwork, that's when it like really hit her. Oh my gosh, yeah, I am.
Is there any physical symptom of burnout?
There are physical symptoms of burnout. So, and obviously there can be other causes to these symptoms that I'm going to list. But if you have a collection of them, it's something worth exploring. It could be headaches, stomach aches, difficulty falling asleep at night because you can't shut your brain off, or having fitful sleep where you're waking up a lot, just not able to sleep, not getting enough sleep. Changes in appetite. So it could be, loss of appetite or weight gain. Stress eating is really common in burnout. So like after a stressful day at work, it's a little different now with our the new world we're living in right now. But, I've had clients who were really burnt out, and, every day on their way home, it was going through the McDonald's drive-through and just like scarfing down a ton of food before they got home, and like putting themselves sort of in that food coma. Sometimes increased alcohol intake. And I'm not necessarily saying alcoholism, but you notice like, oh, now every night I'm having a glass of wine, or that one glass of wine has now become two because I need help unwinding and letting go. A lot of things, worry, anxiety. At its extreme, it can be panic attacks. It can be starting to call off sick for work. It can be missing deadlines. But people complain of brain fog, difficulty focusing, not as productive as they used to be, takes them longer to get things done. And where they're used to be highly ambitious, they still are ambitious, but they're not excited about the work anymore. They've, one of my clients termed it losing his mojo. Like, I've just lost my mojo. And so we got it back for him.
I feel that sometimes when we consider life as a sprint, not as a marathon, then we get into all these issues. It's a long game. We get to have patience. And personally, I play sprint sometimes, but then I remind myself it's a marathon.
Yeah, I love that analogy. And it's so true. And that is what the difference is. You have to pace yourself. There's going to be a tomorrow.
And sometimes it's okay not to be productive. And some days, it is what it is. And let's practice not to take ourselves so seriously. And again, if I add a spiritual side to this, that whatever is yours will be yours at the right time. Right things will come at the right time. Mm-hmm. You just got to be patient, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And keep failing, keep moving forward, and request for support. So, Dr. Donna, I want to ask you, when you get into any life-challenging situation, do you have a coach, personal coach, or a therapist in your life?
Yes. I have both.
I have both. Awesome.
Yeah. So depending on the need, depending on what's going on. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of taking care of yourself. And I am a big proponent of therapy. I think it's essential that we reduce the stigma around mental health and around therapy. And I think coaching has a lot less of a stigma, which I'm grateful for. But, I think we all have doctors, right? We have a primary care doc, and we probably have specialists for different things. But yet we tend to compartmentalize this as if physical health is different than mental health, and all of it needs to be taken care of. If you never went in for a physical, how healthy would you be? I really believe it's the same with your mental health, that you should see a therapist or a coach or someone who can really help you with your personal development and growth.
Exactly. Mind, body, and soul. Nothing is separate. It's all working in unison.
Yes.
In your TEDx talk, you talk about the impact of sound. Could you walk
Yeah.
us through some of the principles of that?
Sure. So my TEDx talk was really about noise pollution in a lot of ways and how the constant presence of sound in our environments now impacts our physiology as well as our mental health. And that the constant presence of sound tends to keep our nervous system revved up and can increase levels of anxiety, depression. It can really overwhelm our senses, and it makes it that much more important for us to experience silence. Silence allows us to reset our nervous system. It allows us to move out of that fight, flight, or freeze and into rest and relaxation. And really, we don't realize how much sound is constant in our environment now, from the hum of the refrigerator or the computer or the phone charger to all the other sounds in our environment. And so it's really important to be intentional in creating silence for ourselves as a way of resetting the nervous system. And it's like recalibrating. The way I think about it is, when you drive on the highway, you're driving at fast speeds. And then when you get off the highway, your inclination is still to go fast, even though you need to slow down. Versus, when you start driving, you might be driving slower, like when you're starting from rest. And that's how I sort of think of it. It's like we're driving on the highway all the time with sound, and then we need a chance to stop and park the car and reset our bodies and our systems, so we're not always go go go.
How do you create silence in your life?
I will use earplugs. Yeah, I'll use earplugs while I'm meditating, or sometimes when I'm sleeping, so that it's complete silence for me. I recommend noise canceling headphones to people as well. Sometimes putting in my earbuds and not playing anything, just to dim the sound, and every once in a while taking the opportunity to just really like go into a room and unplug everything, like not have any of that noise.
Does it ever happen that your daughter disturb you during meditation?
Oh, sure. Yeah, they're older now, so it's not as much, although it still does happen. I'm glad you asked that question, because I have this hilarious image in my head back when my youngest daughter was 2 years old. And so my daughters were 2 and 4, and I would get up really early so that I could meditate in silence before they got up. And then it's like they could sense that I was awake, right? So I have this memory and this mental image of myself on my meditation cushion meditating, while my 2-year-old literally ran laps around me while I was meditating. And she was just circling me, just running in a circle around me. And, there was part of me that's like, oh my gosh, can't I get a moment alone? And there's this other part of me that was like, this is what meditation is about. It's about, can you be quiet and calm and still and centered regardless of the chaos around you in your life? And
did you teach meditation to your daughters?
Yes.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been exposed to yoga and meditation pretty much their whole lives.
That is so profound that if we can teach teenagers about all these principles, their life will be so much full of gratitude in the long run.
Yeah.
Great, Dr. Donna. And before we conclude this conversation, I want to ask you one last question. What kind of relationship do you have with yourself?
I would say an imperfect one.
I was not expecting that answer.
Yeah, I think very honestly, I'm human like everyone else, and I have strong days and not so strong days, that I'm a work in progress like everyone else. And my relationship with myself is about compassion and grace, and kind of never giving up on the big dreams, and allowing myself space when maybe they feel too big or too overwhelming, and then allowing myself that strength and productivity when I'm all in and ready to go. So, but it's always a growing relationship.
Love it. And where can our listeners find you online?
So my website, drdonnamarino.com, DR for doctor. And if you use that, you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn as Dr. Donna Marino.
And we will put all the information in the show notes so that listeners can find you online as well.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Great, Dr. Donna. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode today. If you did enjoy this, please subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or you can visit https://nishantgarg.me, NISHANTGARG.me. You can also share this episode with your loved ones to help them live a fulfilled life. You are not alone in this journey. We all struggle in life. There is no shame in talking about it. I go through my highs and lows. I get depressed, and these practices help me in living a resilient life. You can also do this. You got this. Don't judge yourself. You are doing the best you can. And thank you so much again.